last year. This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our friends over at Cova Software, the #1 dispensary point-of-sale system in North America, with an average of nearly 100 new dispensary clients opening their doors every month. Some of the biggest retail brands and most remote cannabis stores in the US and Canada count on Cova. Swing over to covasoftware.com today to see why. That's covasoftware.com with Cova spelled C-O-V-A. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Thursday, April 15th, 2021, and you're tuned in to episode 1047 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. We leap into the federal realm to lead off the news day as Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said during a press conference on Sunday that he was planning to introduce cannabis legalization legislation, quote unquote, soon. Regular listeners should remember that Senator Schumer has been making a lot of noise over the last few months in regards to federal legalization, teaming up with fellow Democratic Senators Ron Wyden of Oregon and Cory Booker of New Jersey in crafting such a bill. Senator Schumer's home state of New York just famously lifted cannabis prohibition in a very major way, so the energy pushing Senator Schumer towards legalization is coming from everywhere. A proposed bill in California to legalize the possession of psychedelics was approved by a state Senate committee on Wednesday by a count of 6-2. Senate Bill 519 was introduced by State Senator Scott Wiener and was advanced by that 6-2 vote out of the Health Committee, following on the heels of the bill's advancement out of the Public Safety Committee last week. This is an awesome story that fits right into the larger overall storyline of the softening of the war on psychedelics and is something that I would keep on your general radar. Every bill that passes that throws off illegality for psychedelics makes it that much easier to pass subsequent laws elsewhere. Pop over to Marijuana Moments if you want the particulars on California's SB 519. Our final top story in the day made me smile really big when it popped up on my browser. A video of Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers was posted on Twitter earlier this week, in which he lamented that every time he gets together with Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, he is reminded of the fact that Wisconsin residents are driving over the border to purchase legal cannabis in Illinois, thus spending their tax dollars out of state. Illinois wonderfully reports out its monthly cannabis sales figures broken down by in-state and out-of-state residents, so they have a solid idea of how much money they're diverting from their stodgy prohibitionist neighbors. In the video posted on Tuesday, Governor Evers said specifically, quote, "Frankly, I'm kind of tired of talking to the governor from Illinois. Whenever I get together with him, he thanks me for having Wisconsinites cross the border to buy marijuana," unquote. That's just awesome. Governor Evers is a supporter of legalization, but is saddled by the fact that his state's legislature is controlled by the regressive Republican Party. Those are the top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz it in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Cova Software, the #1 dispensary point-of-sale system in North America, with an average of nearly 100 new dispensary clients opening their doors every month. Some of the biggest retail brands and most remote cannabis stores in the US and Canada count on Cova. Not only is Cova Software super easy to use and compliant with all the right rules and regulations, but it's also hugely flexible when it comes to scaling your operations up. The last thing you want to have to do is to switch point-of-sale systems as your company gets bigger, and when you choose Cova, you can rest assured knowing that it will be there for you from your first store through your 100th and beyond. The team behind Cova has been in the point-of-sales game for more than 20 years now, so they have a solid handle on the little things that will make your life easier, right from the onboarding process through continuing support. Learn about all the benefits of being a Cova client over at covasoftware.com with Cova spelled C-O-V-A. That's covasoftware.com. Big thanks to everyone over at Cova Software for the support that helps us keep the news lights on. All right, time for the Blitz. We have an update on a storyline we touched on just yesterday as a bill to legalize adult use marijuana in Minnesota was approved by the House Judiciary Finance and Civil Law Committee, its 6th House committee so far, sending it on to its next stop at the Government Finance and Elections Committee. If the bill keeps on moving along, it could land before the full House for a vote in May. If ultimately turned into law, the bill, House File 600, would set up a taxed and regulated sales program open to adults ages 21 and up. New York State hemp farmers are looking at pivoting their crops into the more smokable forms of cannabis as that state throws off the heavy burdens of cannabis prohibition. Growing hemp has been kind of legal over the last handful or two of years after federal law started to soften up, but it's still not really easy to make your way as an industrial hemp farmer. So the interest in moving to growing adult use cannabis by New York State farmers is understandable and is something we're likely to see in other states that switch over to legal adult use. This is a good thing to know and think about. Jushi Holdings is buying up a medical marijuana company in Virginia for $22 million. The acquisition of the company Dalitso LLC will gain Jushi a 93,000 square foot grow and processing facility and the 9 acres of Virginia land it sits upon in Prince William County. The Valens Company of Canada just released its latest fiscal results, posting Q1 numbers for 2021 for the period ending February 28th. For that 3-month stretch of time, Valens pulled in total net revenues of just over $20 million, up from $16 million in the previous quarter, which shook out to gross profits of $4.8 million, down from last year's Q1 profits of $18.1 million, and an adjusted EBITDA loss of $2.2 million, a steep drop from the $14.3 million profit seen in the same quarter last year. Yesterday in Alabama, a House committee worked on a proposed bill to legalize marijuana that's already been passed out of the Senate, ahead of a possible committee vote today. The bill, SB 46, would set up a limited medical marijuana program built around a list of 20 or so qualifying conditions, including PTSD, anxiety, and intractable pain. If voted successfully today, the bill would head to the full House for a vote, so an exciting storyline to be tracking. Bruce Barcott over at Leafly has a good story up that bounces off a previous headline we ran earlier today with a look at how much money actually flows into the state of Illinois from its neighbors, as people living in places like Wisconsin, Iowa, and Indiana drive over the border to Illinois to shop for legal cannabis, and then to leave their tax dollars behind as a result. As Bruce has it, Illinois is pulling around $10 million or so every month from out-of-state buyers via legal cannabis taxes. As we saw in today's earlier storyline involving the resentment felt in Wisconsin over that cross-border tax migration, it seems like the low-key pressure of that daily cannabis tax drip might be working. Our buddy Ben Adlin, a new regular on our weekly show Marijuana Today, has a good story out of Washington State to wind down our dip in today's news pool. Washington State made big headlines back in February when its Supreme Court ruled that felony drug possession laws were unconstitutional, effectively legalizing the possession of small amounts of all drugs. It's along those lines that Washington State Governor Jay Inslee issued 15 commutations this week for people in prison for drug crimes, setting those people free. It was estimated that fewer than 100 people were in Washington State jails for possession at the time of the Supreme Court ruling, and according to the office of Governor Inslee, there's now just around 25 or so people left who have not yet been released. This is awesome news and something that we need to see everywhere. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, MJ Today Media, and to our awesome Patreon listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the Patreon listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with Marijuana Today. Today.
One take, Shay. One take.